Yeah, we're going to review the end of the 2-year Surrendered Leadership training that has been 5 separate weeks over 2 years, and we're definitely continuing because it's been an amazing ride. It's been incredible, actually, and I was just thinking about it before this video. Yeah, one of the 5 was the best retreat I've ever been a part of, and that was when I think we found our sweet spot, because before that, leading together again after mainly leading apart the last 5 or 6 years was certainly had its challenges, and quite different challenges. Like the first week had certain challenges. I remember getting triggered in particular ways, and then you did in particular ways. And then the second week was totally different, but that was when we weren't actually aligned in what we were bringing with our vision with Surrendered Leadership, and we brought that during the week, and we had a dialogue about the differences, and but that was so edgy. And then the mastery week was beautiful, and it was quite humbling for us too. We're going to call the next one the Beginner's Mind week. So all in all, it feels incredibly rich, and we're just very excited to start again next year and to go back to the structure that we feel we've got a rhythm on and where we have a sweet spot on.
I'd like to say more about what I experienced in that journey, but first of all I want to say what was the most magical for me on the Surrendered Leadership week. And I didn't anticipate this as strong as it became when it actually started to happen, that this sense of being able to take transformational connection and leading birthday circles out of the equation was just such a relief, even though I love doing that. But what the relief was though is like everyone coming on this course has done that, can do it well, and are coming here because they know what Surrendered Leadership is and the potential of it, and to come on a training like this for a week, it really feels like we were bringing the kind of, using the tennis analogy, we were bringing the tournament players together, and it was so exciting. But the interesting thing was what I expected was like, it's almost like gloves off, okay, let's go for it, because it's like, all the best players, all the best leaders, we're just going to go for it. But what it actually more felt like to me was like, it was a very loving space. It was very calm, and it was like, I didn't feel like there was like these struggles around what the context is, and it became more a kind of transformation through kind of peaceful, kind of loving connection. So that's the thing that most stood out to me, and getting to be able to just share the things that are most in the depths for me, and getting to receive the other leaders share that, and to get to witness people leading their surrendered leadership their way. It's just such a refreshing, enlivening experience.
Us sharing like what is most up for us and what we really believe like makes the most difference to being able to lead Surrendered Leadership well. Like, I think my stuttering with my words there probably links to this idea, because once I shared like my notes with the group quite often, I was so insecure because it felt so soul bearing, and it was, when I lead SASs, it's not like I go through the motions, or I feel like I'm giving everything and I'm fully showing up. But there was something about this Surrendered Leadership where it's like, this was, we inherited circling, whereas Surrendered Leadership is what we came up with, and it's so dear to our hearts that our most authentic sharings about it, for me, it's just so vulnerable and uncomfortable, but that's also where the most magic is, and where that's what makes it so special, and why we're so enlivened to do lots more of these coming years.
Yeah, and getting a week in a residential environment, it was also, the evening activities were very based around surrender leadership, but it was more like dance, sharing, dialogue, fireside rituals, but with that kind of spontaneity of surrender leadership, and but again, just with the people that are most aligned, and it's just very nurturing training. But then on the challenging side, which it certainly was leading, I think the challenge also taught me the most about what surrendered leadership is, and also what it means to co-lead. Like John already shared, that in the beginning it was like, I think I was a little bit scared going in, or nervous more, because we had been leading SASs separately and events separately, and to really bring our visions together, it really showed me what that means. But there's also something about this practice and this consciousness that it kind of makes sense to do that as well. Like, that's how this grew, through our connection, through our dedication to the practice, in our real relationship and our real responsibilities. So it did feel like a reckoning, but with the developed understanding we have of developmental trauma and the importance of boundaries and different states of consciousness, bringing that into this training and having to embody that between us, it really showed me that like every decision each of us makes affects the other one's vision. So we couldn't take for granted any place. When I'm used to in my trainings, like, no, this is what works well. It's like, no, I can't hold on to that anymore. I've really got to be in relationship. And then I get vulnerable about, maybe John's going to get fed up of how many details I need, but I have to keep showing up in that. And there were times where it didn't align, and then we would get impacted by that. And then how do we deal with it? Because it's easy to come in and be like, you didn't put that past me, and then get into straight away survival. And we had to keep waking up in those survival moments. But the thing that was most powerful, I think, not just for us, was that second weekend where we were like, we had to actually ask the question, are we actually doing the same thing still? Because if we're not leading the same thing, that's not congruent, and that was scary, because what does that mean for our partnership? And then we actually did see differences, and then so we did bring those, and that was. But what actually happened through the process with the group is it started to see that, of course, surrendered leadership is going to actually, even on a fundamental level, be expressed and understood different in two different people, no matter how aligned they might be. And actually, it was like our bubble of surrendered leadership was here, and then the greater surrendered leadership for me kind of emerged around it. And then in that week, it was like every single leader is doing that. It's like there's a new surrendered leadership with each person, but there is a whole that they all connect within. And it kind of helped me let go of the kind of personal attachment to like what it is and how it should be communicated.
Yeah, and there's something about that process between us that we also bring into how we organise the groups. So in some way, there's a top-down element of us leading all the sessions with different themes, and like there's really our best attempt to try and convey the beauty of this leadership that we've discovered, that we get so much from and that we enjoy doing so much. But there's also this sense of the mystery around it, and like everyone who comes on the training has a flavour of it, has a knowing of what surrender is and what surrendered leadership is. So it did feel like we got a good balance of like, we're bringing a lot of stimulus, and we're leading this and wanting to share something, yet at the same time we're part of this bigger collective field of exploration of what surrendered leadership is, and a discovery more deeply of what it is and how to do it and where it might be useful.
Yeah, and the big thing to share with you guys that weren't part of the Surrendered Leadership Mastery, which may become the Surrendered Leadership Beginner's Mind Week, is we did see this as a 2-year journey, and we did say that to be part of the Mastery Week you had to have done a Surrendered Leadership Week before that, so we had even more sense of the, those that really want to kind of embody and take surrendered leadership to the next level, have them together for a week. And then we created this process, and that was quite a journey between us as well. It was very intense inner work we had to do together again, and visioning together. And what we ended up coming up with, actually, I think is going to have quite a big impact on the field. Because one thing that came out of that process was we've actually dropped certification for surrendered leadership. So we're probably going to keep it for transformational connection, but for surrendered leadership, in the end, we were close to thinking it was important as a boundary, as a way for people to know their readiness to have a standard for the world, so the world knows who's qualified and who's still training. But actually, in the end, we were that didn't fully align. We didn't want that process again of where we're in the position to tell others when they're ready, and that kind of tension that arises in that process. And what we thought was more aligned was we created a peer feedback system that also had our contribution and our feedback, but actually relied a lot on the group being in smaller groups, getting a chance to lead not just the surrendered leadership circle, but your transmission, your practices, your own it was like an hour long, people got to lead. And then someone in the group would step in and then lead the process to give the kind of peer support feedback, leadership development feedback. And it became, we called it the mastery process, but it might become the beginner's mind process. We're not sure yet. But there was something really kind of meaningful and special about that, where it's a sense of bottom up and top down. We've had more experience than anyone ever to lead this practice, so we can bring in our experience and our feedback, and our team rigorously trains together, and so we can bring what we've learned from that. But at the same time, surrendered leadership is bottom up as well. It's collective intelligence. It's peers supporting each other and developing and recognizing each other. So we're going to see how that lands in the world, because it's not going to be it's not going to just be a certification that everyone has. It's this more collective process.
Yeah, and that speaks to surrendered leadership as in surrendered leadership circles and being able to lead that, but that surrendered leadership is bigger than that, and you can actually lead anything from a surrendered leadership paradigm. And that was really rich to see people lead a surrendered leadership circle, but then lead something completely of their choice, attempting to do that from within a surrendered leadership paradigm. And that's a kind of anchor to this training, that if you come next year, that's what you're coming into.
It was amazing to see some of the creative ideas that came up, and I saw someone bringing they've been working with someone that specializes in heart enlightenment or heart opening transcendence, and brought that kind of satsang energy into surrendered leadership space. So someone brought in just simple practices, dyads, where you just ask good grounding questions to prepare people, but brought it in this surrendered leadership way. And I think everyone learned a lot about how to really be in surrender to do that. But it's so good to see the creative possibilities where you holding surrender leadership, doesn't always have to be a circle. It doesn't always have to be that process of going into the unknown as a collective and seeing what unfolds. It can be a yoga session or a bodywork session that really led from that deeper surrender.
So if you're interested, we would love to see you one of the upcoming weeks, and our plan is to do 3 weeks in 2025 and then another 3 probably in 2026, with the last one being that beginner's mind special.